Let's talk pricing, specifically how much you should be charging for your consulting services, and then of course how to actually structure these payments and fees so that they're in line with your client's goals, and we remove as much friction as possible to you getting paid. So timestamps below, along with some other helpful links and resources, including a link to our consulting launch playbook to help you package your services, figure out how to systematize your process so that delivering client results is a rinse and repeat process. But before we can deliver results, we have to figure out how much we should be charging. Now, there are lots of different ways to do this, so here's a quick way to find a baseline. We'll start by making a huge list of everything under the sun that we possibly could do as a part of delivering results for our clients. So this should include everything from the first onboarding call, all of the back and forth emails and text messages, communication time, to you actually sitting down and doing the work you were paid to do, right? So let's say I am doing this for our own marketing agency, just getting started, and we're setting up an ads account for the first time, and it takes about 30 hours, including all of those back and forth emails. Seriously, think about all of that communication time. You should be charging for that. So then we need to figure out what is a reasonable hourly rate. Now, before you hit the thumbs down button that doesn't mean anything anymore and leave a hate comment, we're not talking about charging per hour. This is just to figure out a baseline. So there are a couple ways you could figure out a baseline. What I like to do is head over to glassdoor.com. You can set up a free account, then search as if you were looking for a job. Here, I'll just say PPC specialist, and I'll set it to Seattle, Washington, where I used to live. Make sure you choose a major city so you don't have a downward cost adjustment on the salary. And then here we can see I could expect to make about 80K, which is actually pretty dang high. So you can of course scroll down the page and they have lots of different information here as you can see. But the main thing we want to figure out is if we were to go work at a company, how much would we charge? Would we be paid? We get to charge the company, right? No, it's a salary. So how much would we be paid if we were just doing this normally, right, as a salary job? And so we want to take that hourly rate and plug it into our formula here. And then the final part is we need to give ourselves a margin, right? Because we're not just an employee showing up. We have business overhead. We have a lot of other things we have to pay for, like getting leads. We have to pay for all our own software, all of our own tools and laptops, right? So we want to add some sort of margin to account for all of that. And we are a business at the end of the day. We need to make money. So we'll say 1.3. That gives us a 30% margin. And so if we take our 30 hours times our $50 per hour times our 1.3, it gives us about a consulting fee of about $1,900 to go ahead and set up a Google Ads account. Now, of course, there are lots of other ways you can do this. Upwork Services is another great place to go. If you set up an account as a client, you'll be able to look at their service listings, kind of pretty much like Fiverr, except it's Upwork, right? So you can go through and you can see how much freelancers are charging for similar services that you are planning to offer. Now, obviously, when you look at places like Fiverr and Upwork, let's not take their pricing because their pricing is generally going to be pretty low. But it does help you understand how to properly package your services. So hopefully that is a quick and dirty way to figure out at minimum how much we should be charging. So now let's go through some different models that we could use to actually get paid. So the first one is the one you're probably least interested in, so we'll blaze through it, and that is the hourly contract model. This is where you are a contractor, you do the work, you punch in your time card, and then you get paid. As a consultant, I can tell you it's the worst thing in the world. It just absolutely stinks. And we go through the math at the end, you'll see why this is probably the worst one to do. However, when you're just getting started, it might make it really easy to just say, hey, here's my hourly rate because I have no idea how long things take. Or you are dealing with your first couple of clients, or you're dealing with a big client who is just absolutely demanding that you only do an hourly rate, in which case, just like double your hourly rate, and those types of clients will usually pay because they're really concerned about how much time you're spending on things. So here's a couple of examples of what you might be doing for an hourly rate. It could be a custom tailored project. It could just be a part-time client, pretty much like a part-time job, which is totally normal for consultants to start. And so whatever it is, this is the model that a lot of consultants start with. If you can, try not to and get out of it as quickly as possible and move on to the flat package or retainer model. So the monthly retainer model is great if you're doing any sort of monitoring, reviews, or advice. So this is where, as a consultant, you're not actually doing services. I know I get comments like,
why do you say services when we're talking about consulting?
Because the YouTube algorithm melds them together. So we have to meld them together until the YouTube algorithm figures out that they are actually different. And so for now, let's talk about monthly retainers. And so this is where you're not necessarily doing any physical work as in terms of services, but you are taking an advisory role. And so you can charge a flat monthly fee for access to you, a certain number of strategy calls, a certain time frame of getting back in terms of emails. And again, you're going to want to estimate how long each client's going to take. Now, if you're actually doing some sort of services, you're not just providing guidance and reviews and monitoring, then you're going to want to use something like a flat package model. And so here you're going to make a laundry list of all of the services that you're going to deliver for someone, and then you're going to charge a flat rate for all of those services. So if you're not quite sure, like what would a package look like, Fiverr and Upwork both provide a lot of different ideas. Again, don't use the pricing, just use it to figure out how you can create your own package. I'll leave a link in the cards and the description to a super deep dive business plan for consultants that walks through how to actually design and create your own package. Also, the Consulting Launch Playbook walks through a very simple process so you can figure out what your package should be. So with these, you're going to most likely have a flagship, and then you'll have a small one, and then of course you'll have the really big one, right? The one that's like $8,000 or $15,000 where you do everything under the sun. That like once or twice a year, big client that walks through the door and you know like, oh, this one's really gonna be a game changer and they can afford to pay me for everything under the sun. And we'll talk more about that when we go through value-based pricing. And so the second to last one here is going to be percentage. Now, this one should really only be used if it's standard in your niche or industry. And here, you're going to not get any sort of guarantees, but you're going to get a percentage of either cost savings, what you are managing in terms of something like ad spend, or commissions in terms of sales. Those are some common examples. And so here, you're not necessarily going to know exactly how much you're going to get paid. And you also want to use this with clients who you've already done work with in the past, because normally there's going to be some sort of lag. As an example, with us as a marketing agency, after we do a flat package to set up a AdWords or Google Ads account, I keep saying AdWords, it's Google Ads. It's been years and I keep doing it. So anyway, after we set up a Google Ads account, there's confidence for new clients, right? And then we switch to a model that's percentage, so we charge a percentage of the ad spend that we're managing. But we don't ever start that way because we don't want to do a couple months of managing and then find out the client's not actually going to pay us. And so, of course, that's something that you do want to keep in mind is when you're charging your clients as well. Now, this final one is probably the one that you've heard about if you've watched any other videos on consulting and pricing, and this is the value, right? We're supposed to charge based upon the value we deliver. Like, what on earth does that actually mean? And does that even apply to your particular type of consulting? Well, let's go through a basic example. I'm going to do marketing again because that's what I do, lots of marketing. So let's say we have a family restaurant, we have a local tax accountant or bookkeeper, and then we have a car dealership. So when we're thinking about these different businesses, of course, our restaurant is probably catering to families. And so there's 3 to 4 customers at a time, depending upon how big the family is. And then, of course, we have the bookkeeper who's just targeting one person. And then, of course, we have the car dealership probably dealing with at least 2 decision makers, right? And so now we need to think about if we're a marketing agency and we're bringing them clients or customers or families, then how much value are those people that we're bringing in the door? Well, for our restaurant, it's probably going to be $25 to $125 per family or per table. And then for our tax accountant, it's going to be $500 to $1,500. And then maybe for the car dealership, where let's say we're doing used cars, $4,500 to $12,000, right? So you can see that we could be doing the exact same service, but the results and the monetary benefit to the business is different based upon the type of customer. So obviously, we could charge the car dealership a lot more for the same service than the restaurant because they simply make more money off of what we do. And so that could also play a role into, well, what types of clients do I want? And of course, everybody under the sun goes, all right, well, I'm just going to go to the car dealerships. Well, we all know life doesn't necessarily work that way. So you might wind up finding that for restaurants, you charge one price, and then for bookkeepers, you charge another, and then for the big car dealerships, you charge a third price, right? And so if we go back to our packages, you can see that the different packages that we offer might change based upon the size of the client or the business. And so this is value-based pricing, where you try and figure out what is the value that my service delivers, and then let's charge a rate, let's say 10 to 20% of whatever that value is. We'll go through some actual math in the final section. So that does it for how to calculate your base price, and then a bunch of different ways that you can actually charge. Comment below if you have any questions so far. Now I'd like to share with you our model of offering consulting services and how we actually like to stack these different pricing tiers so it's always in line with our clients' goals. So this is something we call the 3P squared model. Yes, I should come up with a better name. Link in the cards in the description to our consulting launch playbook that goes through this in detail. So I'm going to quickly run through it here. So of course, it starts with a front end package. This is what I like to do with new consulting clients. So we offer them a flat rate package, and then we go through and we do the work, we onboard them, we roll up our sleeves, get to work, and then of course there's an offboarding process where we deliver results. And then during this, we try and come up with a flat add-on offer. And so this is another flat rate service or consulting offer that we offer while we're actually doing the work. And so we look for areas where we can provide and add value. Because after all, whatever your package, your client probably needs more, right? And so the last thing we want to do is say, oh yeah, sure, no problem, I'll add that, no worries. Because as soon as you do that once, trust me, there's another 10 emails asking you for just as much, if not more work. And so as soon as scope creep starts showing up where they go, hey, can you do this? And it's definitely not in your original package, you say, oh yeah, sure, for a flat rate, we can do X, Y, Z. Of course, if you don't want to do a flat rate, this is probably the one area where you could go, okay, well, we could do it for X amount per hour. And then once we're done, we can go ahead and add some sort of ongoing service, if possible, as a percentage. So this is what we do as an agency. We start by setting up their ads account. As we set up their ads account, we have an add-on for analytics tracking because almost nobody has it set up correctly. And then at the end, if they're still happy with us, we say, hey, for a percentage of your ad spend, we'll stay on and optimize the heck out of all your campaigns. Or we also have a retainer model where some people don't want to have that active management, but they do want to still have access to myself or our team for just asking questions as they figure out how to optimize. And so we also offer a retainer model. So this is a very basic way that you can have multiple different pricing for different types of offers that you have in your consulting business. So let's go ahead and break down some math. This is the last part of math that we'll do in this particular guide for how this might play out as our marketing agency example. So first we have the contractor model, which is actual hours times our hourly rate. So this is 25 hours of work, $50 an hour, $1,200 in fees. So as you can see here, it's not really nice because if we're faster, we get paid less. This is definitely something that was a super headache when I worked at different agencies. I was like, I got the work done more. I got the work done faster. Can you give me a raise? Oh no, we can't afford it. Just roll your eyes. So anyway, then we have package, right? So estimated hours, hourly rate times our margin. So even if it only took us 25 hours, we still get paid the full $1,900. Now, of course, there is a disadvantage. What happens if it takes 50 or 60 hours? Well, that was a really painful client experience. And now we know either to raise our prices or how to not have that painful mistake in the future. There is a learning curve here. I've definitely had that. I think my first client, I wound up getting paid $6 or $7 per hour because of all the messes and things that I didn't see coming. So then we have the retainer model, which is the estimated monthly hours to provide consulting times your hourly rate times your margin. So if we're doing 10 hours, that would be $650 per month. And of course, you'll adjust this up and down as you learn about how much time you're going to be spending in terms of providing feedback, but getting on the phone, Zoom calls, or however you decide to interact with your client. Then finally, we have percentage. Let's say we have a client spending $20K in ad spend. We charge 15% in this instance. So that's $3,000 for whatever the period is. In this case, it's a month. And then finally, we have value, right? This is really the hard one. But let's say for our car dealership example, we are getting them an extra 10 sales a month at $1,250. So that's extra $125,000 in sales that the car dealership gets that they wouldn't if we weren't doing our job, right? So we could say, okay, well, we're worth 10% of that. So you can see how it's actually really similar to percentage. But in this particular instance, we would get a fee of $12,000 for providing $125,000 in sales. And of course, when it comes to value, it doesn't necessarily have to be sales cost saving. You can go ahead and calculate the value however you want. What's just most important as you're looking through this is that whatever you're charging is in line with whatever your client ultimately wants. And so because your client is paying for a result, they're not necessarily paying for how long it takes you to get that result. You don't really need to be super hung up on how long it actually takes you for a consulting gig or contract. And as long as you can figure out the value you're delivering, you're going to be able to easily, reasonably price your consulting services. So it's a no-brainer to your clients. So thank you so much for watching. Sincerely hope you got some ideas on how to charge and what to charge. Comment below with your consulting pricing questions, and make sure you check out that link to the Consulting Launch Playbook to help you come up with your package, find your ideal client, and of course, come up with some add-on offers as well to maximize your revenue. So hit that like button, subscribe for more guides just like this one, and until the next, keep building the business you love.